Welcome back to my channel. If you could do me a solid and hit subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and hit the like button, it really helps me out in the algorithm. The following stories have been crafted for sleep. These stories are about Wendigo sightings. Story number 1. The Hunter's Nightmare. I had been hunting in the dense forests of northern Minnesota for years, but nothing could have prepared me for what I encountered that cold November night. The trees stood like silent sentinels, their skeletal branches swaying in the icy wind as I followed the fresh tracks of a deer. My rifle was loaded, my senses sharp. I was alone, or so I thought. The first sign that something was wrong came in the form of an eerie stillness. The usual sounds of the forest, rustling leaves, distant howls, and scurrying critters, vanished. It was as if the world itself had taken a breath and refused to exhale. That was when I saw it. A figure loomed in the shadows between the trees. It stood unnaturally tall, its limbs elongated and skeletal, and its face, a twisted, hollow-eyed visage, sent ice through my veins. Its skin clung tightly to its bones, as though it had been starved for centuries. Worse, it smelled of decay, a rancid odour that made my stomach lurch. Then it spoke, a voice, hollow and inhumane, called my name. I didn't stop to think. I ran, my boots pounded against the forest floor, but the thing pursued me, its gaunt form moving impossibly fast. My chest burned, my legs ached, but still I ran. When I finally burst into the clearing near my truck, I turned to look one last time. It was gone. The next morning I found deer carcasses strung up in the trees, their bodies torn apart, with precision too sinister to belong to any natural predator. I never returned to those woods again. Story number 2. The Forgotten Cabin. We had always joked about the legends surrounding the Wendigo, but deep down we all felt a chill whenever old folks spoke of it. Still, that didn't stop me and my friends coming from setting up camp near an abandoned cabin deep in the Canadian wilderness. The first day was uneventful, hiking, fishing, the usual, but that night everything changed. A distant wailing drifted through the trees, a sound so unnatural it made our skin crawl. We told ourselves it was just the wind, but unease settled over us like a heavy fog. As the night wore on, we heard something circling our campsite. Heavy footsteps, deliberate, predatory. Then came the scratching at the cabin door. We froze. My friend Jason grabbed his flashlight and shone it outside. That's when we saw it. A towering figure with hollow eyes and jagged yellow teeth. Its arms, too long for its body, twitched with unnatural movements. It let out a guttural growl before slamming its bony hand against the door. We barricaded ourselves inside, our breath coming in short gasps. The creature circled us all night, its whispers seeing through the wooden walls, calling our names. When dawn broke, the noises stopped. We emerged shaken but alive. We left everything behind and hiked out of those woods, vowing never to speak of that night again. Some things should remain forgotten. Story number 3. The Lost Hiker. It was supposed to be a simple solo hiking trip, a chance to disconnect from the city life and find peace in the mountains, but peace was the last thing I found. The first few days were perfect. The trails were untouched, the scenery breathtaking, but on the third night I sat by my fire, I noticed something strange. The woods were silent, not a single sound, no crickets, no owls, nothing. That was when I saw the eyes, a pair of glowing orbs high in the trees, watching me. They disappeared before I could grab my flashlight. My gut told me to leave, but stubbornness kept me rooted. That was my mistake. A blood-curdling scream split the night. It wasn't human, nor animal. It was something else entirely. I grabbed my gear and I bolted, adrenaline pushing me forward, but the deeper I ran, the more lost I became. Then I heard the breathing, ragged, laboured, close. I turned, and it was there, a Wendigo. Its skeletal frame lurched towards me, its gaping mouth dripping with something black. I ran until my legs gave out, collapsing into the dirt. The last thing I remember before passing out was a cold breath against my neck. Then I woke. It was morning. My camp was in ruins, but I was unharmed. It had spared me. But why? I didn't stay to find out. Story 4. The Ice Fisherman. I've been ice fishing on the frozen lakes of the northern woods for as long as I can remember. The deep cold never bothered me until that day. It was just me out in the lake, a small hut for a shelter, a fishing rod in hand. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the snow-covered landscape. That's when I heard it. The sound of footsteps crunching through the snow, coming from just outside my hut. At first I thought it was another fisherman, though I was surprised they could have gotten so close without me hearing the snowmobile. I opened the door, but no one was there. The air was biting, and the only sounds were the wind and the soft creaking of the ice beneath me. I stepped outside, my breath freezing in the air, and looked around. There was no sign of movement, but something felt off. That's when I saw it. A figure, standing in the distance, barely visible in the twilight. It was tall, impossibly tall, and its skin was a sickly, stretched shade of grey, pulled taut over bone. Its eyes glowed a pale, unnatural yellow, and its mouth, it was too wide for any creature I'd ever seen. I was frozen in place, my heart pounded in my chest as the figure began to move towards me. It didn't walk, it glided over the snow, its limbs bending at grotesque angles. I backed into my hut, but I couldn't look away. The thing didn't reach me. As quickly as it appeared, it vanished into the trees, leaving behind only the echoes of its eerie calls. I packed up and left immediately. I haven't set foot on that lake since. Story number 5. Cabin in the Woods. It was supposed to be a relaxing getaway. Just me, a few friends, and a cabin in the woods far from civilization. We rented the place on a whim, not thinking much about the stories that had been passed down for generations. We thought it would be fun. Eerie place for a weekend trip. The first night was fine. We stayed up late, laughing and drinking, telling ghost stories, but on the second night, things changed. Around midnight, we heard something, a slow, dragging sound. At first we thought it was an animal, but it didn't stop. The sound grew louder, closer. One of my friends, Max, grabbed a flashlight and went outside to investigate. We watched from the window as he walked out towards the noise, but after a few moments, The light disappeared. We waited, but Max didn't return. The dragging sound continued, but it seemed to be circling the cabin. We were trapped inside. The creature came into view then, a thing with twisted limbs and hollow sunken eyes. Its body was gaunt, covered in patchy, matted fur, and it had the face of a twisted, starving man. It wasn't human. Not anymore. We didn't know what to do. The Wendigo circled our cabin, scraping its claws along the wood, trying to break in. It whispered things to us, things I can't even bring myself to repeat. In the morning, Max was gone. We found his tracks leading off into the woods, but they stopped abruptly. We left that cabin as quickly as we could, but I still hear the whispers sometime, even when I'm alone. Story number 6. The Roadside Encounter. It was late, too late, and I was driving down an isolated stretch of highway in the dead of winter. The snow was thick on the ground, the road slick and dangerous, but I had to get home. I didn't expect to see anything other than the headlights illuminating the white road ahead, but then I saw it. At first it was just a shadow in the distance, flickering at the edge of the woods. It didn't seem to move like a normal creature. I slowed my car, squinting into the dark. That's when it stepped into the road. The creature was massive, towering over my car. Its body was thin, skeletal, but its limbs were long and twisted, the fingers curling into claws. Its face was horrifying, sunken eyes that gleamed with unnatural light, and a mouth full of sharp, yellowed teeth. Its skin was stretched tight over bones, and it moved with an unnatural grace. I froze. I couldn't move. I wanted to scream, to drive away, but my body was paralyzed with fear. Then it did something that sent chills down my spine. It tilted its head, as if studying me, before letting out a low, growling sound. I snapped out of my stupor and hit the gas, speeding away down the road. I didn't stop until I reached the nearest town. The thing never followed, but every time I drive at night, I'm scared to look into the woods. I'm scared it's still out there, waiting. Thank you for joining me this evening. Sweet dreams.